have a show them.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is our January 7th town board meeting. And I ask that all who care to rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move we approve the agenda, but not necessarily in that order.
Second? Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion is carried. Consent agenda. Does anyone have any items on the consent agenda that they would like to discuss?
I have a correction to the minutes for December 3rd.
Okay.
So if you look at the top there in terms of who's present, my name is omitted. even though-
You're on it.
Okay.
All right, any other changes to that before we ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I already changed it, but nobody ever tells me the changes anyway, so I don't bother printing new ones.
Okay, I guess I have a question on the fire contract. Is that, anything else we need to discuss on that? I see that it's been signed
By then.
by them.
We signed it.
No, I don't believe I did.
That was on it, we already agreed to it.
But that's what I'm saying, by leaving it on the consent agenda, that would be the approval for me to
Correct.
sign.
Right.
Okay, because of the size of that, is there any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So,
Second. Whatever.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Okay, committee reports, fire.
We haven't met, we'll meet again on the 23rd of January at 8 a.m. at the Ward Avenue building, which is the one maintenance building next to the fire hall, and then we'll do a tour too, again. That's it.
And the tour is ready to, get ready to go.
Well, we've been through the last time, there was no floors in it, they were just cutting, they had some of the walls up. So each time we meet, we'll just go over and walk through it, see what they've done so far.
When's the tour?
The 23rd of January at 8 a.m. Yeah, you can come on. Because we'll meet, the advisory board will meet, and then we'll go for a tour of the building.
Okay. Anyone here from the library board today? WTA, I'm going to mention that in my chairman's report, will probably meet on, I think it's the 22nd, it's always the third week of January, so that one's coming up. EMS? We haven't seen you for a while now.
I know, it's,
That's good.
it's a waste all your time, how you guys doing?
Good.
So, the last time, well, I wasn't here, Bridget was here, but I think the last time I was here, we talked about the reports that we had been giving you guys, and that includes every call that we go on, you know, we pull the addresses up, it's very labor intensive to do. So what I propose is a similar format, what I'm showing you right now. This is our, I'm calling this our kind of our annual review. We've been here in the township a year now, and I don't know if you guys, if anyone's interested, but so this is kind of an annual review of our response for the last year. And I'll go through it, and if you guys have questions, we can just talk about it. But total calls for 2019 in the township were 231. Of those those calls, we had 198 of them were lights and siren response. So when we look at our response time and our obligation to the contract, we look at those emergency response calls. 33 of the 231, we were requested to respond no lights and sirens. So those do not include, those are not counted in the overall response time. So in 2019, our overall response time was 8 minutes and 5 seconds. The number of times that the ambulance responded from out of the Hudson area, the reason that we're sharing this with you and the public is, that was everyone's concern, that the ambulances are always gonna be coming from the Minnesota side. So, in 2019, that happened 28 times. But since September, when we've added the second ambulance over here, on this side of the river, it's only happened 4 times. So we knew, based on the volumes that we anticipated over here, having 2 ambulances over here, we would really reduce that number, and it has come true. Mutual aid request, meaning we requested another ambulance service to respond because we were either out of ambulances or out of position to respond appropriately. That happened 6 times. Since September, it's happened 0 times. Again, and I predicted in our total volume over here on the Wisconsin side with the 2 ambulances over here, our total mutual aid requests will probably go to less than 2% of our total volume. In 2019, we did 745 transfers out of Hudson Hospital. Total ambulance responses for our Hudson service area. So we just look at our Hudson service area separate than we do our Minnesota side, and we just track that. So I'm sharing that with you guys too. So that includes the village of North Hudson, town of Hudson, Troy, Warren, and the city of Hudson. 502 calls since September 9th to be exact. In that entire service area, we're averaging 5 minutes, just a little over 5-minute response time. Right now, we're averaging about 4 minutes in the city of Hudson, so that's where the big volume is, so that's going to reduce our response time there. And then our total call volume for all of Lakeview service area is 8,875. So that kind of just gives you a snapshot. The following graphs, just kind of telling you what types of locations we're going to in the township. So this is just strictly the township. So 179 calls were in a home or a residence, and then you can see the rest, how that lays out. So these are state and national requirements that we track these data points, and those have to be submitted both to the state and into a national database. So some of these terminologies on here are not, we didn't make that up. That's coming right from the database, from the state and national. The next page is the disposition of patient care. That just means when we arrived on scene and we saw a patient, this is what happened. So they were either treated and transported, that happened 132 times, and then you can see the rest of those types of situations. Next one is,
The patient refused evaluation, John, is that usually an accident?
it could be. A lot of times when the accidents were canceled by law enforcement once they get there, if there's no injuries. But a lot of times it can vary. You know, it can be a lot of different situations.
Because if they was a home and they had a heart attack and they called for 911, why would they
Yeah.
refuse?
Well, it could be a spouse or another family member
somebody
calling
else,
for
yeah.
someone, and they didn't want to go, they didn't want anyone calling,
Oh,
so
okay,
those situations happen too.
okay.
The primary complaint report, there's a lot of stuff on there, but it's really to show you guys the types of calls that we're seeing in your township. So again, it doesn't include everything. We've kind of added different things in there because it just breaks down to broken toe and broken, so we kind of add them into traumatic type calls.
Yeah, that's neat.
And then the last page here is the patients that were transported to a hospital. This is the breakdown of where they were transported to. So Hudson Hospital, 78 patients went to Hudson Hospital, Regions 26, and then so on.
John, just horseshoes and hand grenades,
Yeah.
are we consistent with your state and national statistics on the primary complaint chart?
So
No findings?
I honestly can't answer that. So back in August, we switched the national database switched to a new platform.
Okay.
And we're pulling data from an old platform to the new platform. They don't sync. It's two different systems. The languages are all different. And that's all because of the national database. They change the requirement. So we haven't been using the new system long enough to know all these, but I think the answer is yes. When we see, we average over 2,000 times we get called out, so we don't transport some of that. Last year was 7,100 and some calls we did. Over 2,000 times we responded and did not transport someone. So that's pretty consistent what we see in our service area. Any questions? Yeah.
Since we haven't seen you for quite a while, this was off the cuff.
Yeah.
Your paramedic certification with the state of Wisconsin, I assume that went through.
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
That's what I assumed, but I just thought I'd ask, just to
Yeah.
make sure. Okay.
So the question got brought up at the City of Hudson last year about our critical care certification. We elected not to do the critical care certification because we were not doing interfacility transfers. Interfacility transfers, that's where critical care certification is used. It's not used for 911. So we had no reason for us to get critical care certification. Not all of our, 23 of our full-time paramedics are critical care certified. So literally the next day, we just submitted the paperwork, and within a week, we had the certification. So it wasn't that, it was our choice not to do it. But since you brought that up, we have 10 of our new paramedics starting critical care training this month. So they're going to Creighton University in Omaha. Nice. I was going to say Indiana. That's all right. It's very renowned for their critical care training. It's a great program.
It's a great university.
Yeah. An update on our building. The contractor is going to turn the building over to us tentatively on January 23rd. Originally it was supposed to be in April, but the reason they had the April date on the construction completion was because the steel was all back ordered, and they didn't anticipate the steel to come until after Christmas. The steel showed up in October. So they're way ahead of schedule. They're putting flooring in today, so we don't see anything that's going to hold us back from getting in there by February 1st. So we'll move. We've notified the city that we'll be moving out of there as soon as we get the clearance to move into the new base. So I don't know if everyone knows where it is, but we're right behind the hospital on Center Drive there. We got 3 bays.
3 bays?
We originally wanted 4, but the price was just, we couldn't get it down where we wanted it. So, but it was built with the design that we could easily add on. So we have room on the lot to do that. Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, this question on
Yeah.
your mutual aid. So what is your plan, should you ever need it? It looks like, it's going to be pretty remote, but.
Yeah. So we have mutual aid agreements with River Falls, New Richmond, and Baldwin. And then, I hope we don't have to go beyond that. But, you're required by state to have those mutual aid agreements with those services, your bordering services. So we actually do more mutual aid calls for other services than we request people to do for us. we manage our operation pretty tight, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, you guys are involved in the River Falls negotiations?
No, we really didn't have any interest in River Falls. I think there was a lot of anticipation that Lakeview would take advantage of that the minute it came up. And honestly, the reason we had the interest here is because we have the hospital here in town. We knew that there was a need for an improvement in the service. So what we did when the River Falls contract came up, we were contacted by River Falls and notified that they were going to do that, asked if we were interested. We told them that at the time we really are not interested. That is an Alina hospital, and we anticipated that Alina was going to put in for the RFP on that. And we work with Alina. I have a business agreement contract with Alina. They do our dispatching. We have a great relationship with them, and we don't want to be competitors with them. So we found out that they potentially weren't going to put in for it. So we did attend the mandatory informational meeting that if you were going to submit an RFP, you had to attend the meeting. We attended the meeting. My contacts at Alina said that they were going to go forward with their RFP. We wrote the city a letter and just said thanks for the opportunity, but we're not interested. And really our commitment is to what we have going here. You know, that River Falls area is huge. You know, you're going all the way down past Prescott, south of Prescott, out to Ellsworth.
They'll still work together with the mutual aid though.
What's that?
The mutual aid front will still most likely work together.
Absolutely, with Alina, you know, we do calls weekly for Alina right now in Roseville, and a lot of that area out there that they cover, we're their primary backup for a lot of that. So again, we have a great relationship with them. It's going to be great having Alina here in the area. It's very similar, operated just like Lakeview, highly professional operation. I think it'll be good. We're looking forward to having them around.
Can I just make a statement? I know all this was before I got on here.
Yeah.
I think you've met or exceeded my expectations as
Thank
far
you.
as what you're giving the community, the service they provide. So, good job.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate hearing that. That's nice.
You just need to stop by one.
Huh?
You need to stop by one.
Yeah, I know. I will.
I think we all echo that. It's been an excellent year. Any other questions of the board?
All right, so he's not required to attend any more meetings.
No.
So it's just
Oh,
the
I should
first
bring that
year,
up.
so.
So, our next step is to put together some type of advisory committee
Correct.
that would include members from your town, this board, and then all the other communities. So that's our next step.
Is
And
that
then-
something the city's requesting, John?
No, well, it's in our contract.
Yeah, it's
So
in our contract.
We put it in
I
our,
remember it in there
Yeah.
originally.
yeah, so it was originally when it was just, actually it might not be in yours because at the time,
We
you guys
should.
were standalone. But in all the other contracts, we wrote it in there that the regional solution, we would want to bring everyone together. You know, because
So
it's,
you're in charge again.
Village in North Hudson meets the same night you guys do.
How often do you meet?
Quarterly is what we recommended. But we can, at your request, we can come here. But the idea of that meeting is if there's any issues that come up, you guys bring it up. But then we can give you a quarterly report, and then you can bring it back to your board. Or we can certainly come here too. But just trying to get to all the other board meetings would be tough to do. So,
Good.
but,
Well, I think we can certainly get someone to represent us.
yeah,
Let us know.
we'll let you know.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, John.
Good, thanks you guys. Happy New Year.
You too, John, thank you.
All right, my chairman's report, I'm going to keep it very brief tonight. Tomorrow evening, we have a public information meeting that we're hosting here. You're all welcome to come if you want. It's informational. Everyone basically from Highway 12 by Star Lake, all the way, take County Road all the way to when you get to New Richmond, has been invited to this. It's based on a federal grant that was approved somewhere between, we think somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 will be approved for safety on this stretch of road, because there's been many accidents. I know with Hudson, and you know, it's a heavy traffic volume. I will be informed myself tomorrow night. I have to open it up, but what I've been told by the consultants, that the county can't do the work. It has to be through a consultant, which I put in your mailbox with the core consulting group. They'll be presenting it, they'll be bidding it, doing the work in concert to, you know, making sure the county's up to speed. It's basically for all safety issues. So if there's lines on the outside, it'll be brighter and whiter and more durable. If there's other chevron or different types of signs that can be put up, they'll replace those. I think maybe the biggest one I heard is a rumble strip where they'll cut out the center section of the road and put a rumble strip in there so you're not crossing that line into head-on traffic. And
Roberts, New Richmond has that on 65.
right. So anyone, I put in your mailboxes, that's tomorrow night, you're all welcome to come, and the community's welcome to come too if you have suggestions, so.
What time again?
6 o'clock. We're gonna open it up at 5:30. There's no, I asked them that, there's no PowerPoint, but they'll have their boards and work products and stuff that they're proposing to do. And it's not a small project, it's large, so.
Is it gonna possibly include an improvement here?
Could,
Well, we'll ask that tomorrow night. What I was told is there's no additional right-of-way acquisition, no upgrading of infrastructures like bridges and overpasses, but just getting these safety issues is no small task. So, any questions on that? Next, January 15th is our intergovernmental meeting. We're having that at the high school. The city and the towns and everyone meet on that. To stay current, if you have any suggestions or questions you want me to ask prior to that, let me know so we can keep that dialogue going. And then I mentioned, I believe it's the 22nd is the Towns Association's meeting, but I'll get an exact date for you on that. The roads, I just wanted to touch on the roads. I think we're doing an adequate to good job on the roads. Everybody wants to say they're above average. With Tim's help, we went out and took all the slush off the roads on the day when it got about 40 degrees. We're going to do that again probably on Thursday. I've talked to the county, not with 5 trucks, it's not to that level, but the stuff that's still there. Next week it's supposed to be minus, you know, like way down. So any of that we can get peeled off of there on Thursday, we're geared up to do that. So those are my reports. I'm just going to keep it brief tonight. But tying in with roads and improvements on bikes, we have Mark Garrity here, and we're coming up on public comment, so. And I asked him to bring a prop, so he's.
This is a problem. Last time it came in now. So this is made up at WITC by welding class. I'm here on behalf of the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Trail Coalition. And we received a grant from the Hudson David Rotary for $1,500. That will build between 10 and 12 of these. They're made, the class commences at the end of January. So they're made at the welding class at WITC. The powder coating is done by another facility up there in cooperation with WITC. They don't do the powder coating themselves. But the new ones will be just a little bit smaller, but it's going to be just as strong. And so we're at this point, I've talked to the FIPS, I've talked to the school, and also Hop and Barrel is getting one. But it was a situation I thought you folks have been involved specifically from the beginning of the Bike and Trail Coalition. And the fact that the Rotary Club also funded a major part of the Brewster T-ball court or field here to put in 3 of these out here, either one out front, so for people like myself who will stop in at Village Hall once in a while on a bicycle, you can lock up 4 bikes on this if you want, with a lock that will lock to a post inside Joe. And the other thought was putting them out near the utility building or splitting them out. I saw that is the old-fashioned bike racks out there, but it's a matter of these are extremely secure. We install them, there's 2 guys that go around and put bolts in, but it's, Tim and I were talking, and they require just for the purpose of cleanup, et cetera, putting in a slab of some sort. But free of charge to you, and making the offer. So it's a situation, I think, there would be a sticker on here from the bike and pad, and probably a sticker from the Rotary also, just letting you know that's on there.
So the stickers, so people clearly know what they're for and how to use them and self-explanatory.
It's interesting, Justin from Hop and Barrel, these guys are pretty innovative. He said, why don't you put a QR code on there specifically about the county bike map, things such as that people can use their phones on to tie in to things like that, because that's another thing that's coming, that as an update from the Trail Coalition, there will be a new bike map coming out beyond the Loop Trail. So, and an update on that, I was at the meeting this afternoon, the celebration for the Loop Trail will be on the 15th and 16th of May. The big thing is, and there will be an invitation to all, in quote, local representatives to attend. We've invited both governors, and they're trying to do, this is a separate group, but it's a group that's trying to set a world record, Guinness Book of World Records, 6,500 people holding hands around the complete loop. Minnesota's involved with drones to take pictures of it and document it, and Guinness has already been notified. But the big thing is they're doing a spaghetti feed and a street dance on the bridge and adjacent to the bridge on Friday night, 15th. They're already planning, if there's high water, that will be on the plaza. But the big thing is that on the St. Croix County, Ellen Denzer's office is being very involved with the new trailhead as to what is being done. There'll be a lot of publicity. I'll give you an update on that, what we're doing with it. So, so if you're interested, talk it over and then let me know. And we'll put the order into the folks up at WS.
Unless the board has any objections, I think we can let them know now.
I'm okay with that.
So,
You can't put them out here.
No, what I wanted to do is put one out there, Mike, that does the plowing, would like us to put a pad where the garbage cans sit.
Well, then you need to put that on the agenda.
Yeah, so that when you poured that pad, you pour some bolts in and mount it in that.
So you're gonna fill that whole thing?
Yeah.
That's gonna be my question too. If you didn't do that, you'd have to pour a
Yeah.
cone to
So,
anchor.
It's probably easier to pour the slab first and then just anchor with a.
so at this point, what I can do is put you down for 3. They'll do the construct. We'll work out the details in the spring.
Yep.
Nobody's going to be pouring any
I
slabs
think
right
it's a
now.
great project for the kids, young people that make it
And
and color
it's,
code it.
and the pride in the pictures, these kids, and they've got such a great welding program up there. So and they're needed. So.
Paddle coats, forever-ish.
Yeah, but it's worth it. And I'm amazed how many times I will drive by here that this lot is being used by bicyclists using it for the loop. It is, it's used a lot.
So.
So that's one thing we want to do. Not everybody's gonna ride, they can lock their bike up.
That's right. So.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Stay in touch.
I
Get
will.
excited with it too, so.
So if anybody wants to carry the stones, good workout.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. Next on our agenda is Steve Benedict for the 3-lot CSM on Chippewa Path.
Correct.
So Steve, would you just like to, well, I see Doug is here too. Would you like to-
Yeah, and I can start if I could, just by, I'll hand these out. So first, thanks a lot for your time, I appreciate that. I didn't bring this here, so maybe I can share these. But this is kind of an illustration, more than just looking at the plat map, of where potentially the houses would be. When you look at the 7.4 acres, that's our existing home, and then the other 2 green would be the additional homes. So the one that's parallel to our house, which would be on your plat map of lot 2, is where we would sell our existing home and we'd build there, and then eventually sell back the lot number 3. And so one thing that my wife and I did working closely with Doug was to develop it, because around our area it's all been developed. The 9 houses behind us, the 3 across the street, the ones on the corner now of Yellowstone. And so we wanted to be kind of unique because we've lived there 20 years, is to keep it real nice as far as the privacy, the wildlife, the forestry, someone could have horses, and that's why we chose to make it these larger parcels that in the future couldn't be divided in any fashion. And so, that being said, which I think turned out really well as far as all the work that was done, I was kind of hit with a bombshell on Monday about this wetland that came up showing on the back property of the cul-de-sac on our essentially back line, which I'm not really too concerned about because we've lived there 20 years. There really hasn't been any type of vegetation that supports a real wetland or trees specific to wetland. So I think we could get a delineation as far as moving the borders around there a little bit. But then about 4 hours ago, got hit with a worse bombshell saying that we need to extend that existing cul-de-sac to the back property line of myself and Craig. So I spoke with my neighbor Craig, who he claims he's been on the town board. You claim he hasn't, but
He is on the plan commission.
Plan commission. Okay, sorry.
Fred Bickert.
And basically said that when that was put in there, we had the legal access to either go straight up our tree line, off to his property, 30 odd degrees, or off to our property. And it's a nice cul-de-sac. How it's looked in the second picture, it's nice, it's really big and round, it's easy for the buses and plows. And what Tim just was discussing is that us driving it back and putting an anvil or hammerhead, which would be a worse solution or cul-de-sac, you'd be removing this existing cul-de-sac that's better than that solution. So I guess at that point, I'm kind of in a quandary because I haven't had too much time to prepare, and I'll turn over to Doug as far as what the access was. And it's hard for me to believe that it just went away, like you said, and now it's private or public land.
But remember, Steve, it's for a future town road that access is. It's not for a driveway, it's for a future town road. Now I'll give it back.
All right, so if it's gonna be for a future town road, and Steve's saying he's only gonna do one lot off it, then logic would tell me that the future town road needs to go to Bickert's if it is indeed gonna end up being a future town road, or is it gonna just dead end?
I would point it at the middle of the lot, at the corner, so it could go to Bickert's too. You keep track of the cost so that if Bickert ever wants to develop that, he'd pay for half of that road at that time and reimburse Steve.
But there, to me, once again, you're taking a perfectly good, developed cul-de-sac, and you're asking to put in something worse that would stalemate at the property line that I would never do anymore with, because that property would just have a single driveway, and then he would have to tear that up and deviate again.
That's why you only do the hammerhead rather than another cul-de-sac. The hammerheads were a development afterwards because the developers were going through that expense to tear the cul-de-sac out to put another cul-de-sac in.
But in this case,
Because
you're not.
when you extend it, and if that's all the further it's going to your neighbor's property, they'll have to put a cul-de-sac in. At that point, if it's dead-ended then, it will have to have a cul-de-sac on it.
So like Craig had mentioned this afternoon when I contacted him about it, that there should have been money from Bill Sherman who developed it in a town board escrow to run that back to the official spot where it should have been.
And I told you what happened with that. We used to do that in the 1980s, and we'd save $2,000 because that's what it cost to extend that chunk of road. And when they went to do it, 20 years from now, it's now $200,000 to do that chunk of road, and the town ended up eating it. So we said, no, from now on, the policy is whoever the future developer is has to pay for the extension of the road.
And there's nothing grandfathered in when that clearly
No.
shows up those
No.
on the plats.
No, it just
It's
says
future
that
town road.
future town road. Doesn't say driveway, it says future town road. Sorry. I'm sorry, we'll get
So
to
I just have a couple background questions for both of you. Does Craig live on lot 7 that's shown here next?
No,
No, he lives at his
lives
place.
here.
Unclaimed land.
Oh, he's up to the north.
Flip over, flip. This is Bickert.
Oh, that's, okay.
What's bigger?
He said,
Their neighbors in the north.
he's right here,
Okay,
but he won't be able to
And that's,
come.
well, the reason I asked that is, and I guess it's a Doug question for, what easements were reserved or recorded off from that cul-de-sac for Benedict's property
So,
and Bickert's property?
What was done is, the actual town right away was platted to both of their properties. So
Okay,
it's
so
kind of,
that's what's on this graphic.
yes,
So if you
So
put
it's
a
actually
whole 66
square.
with easement on
But
one or
there's
the other, it would
66, so
fit
that the
there,
road could go,
either direction.
Like
Yep.
that.
and then he could get
so
his
basically
driveway
they
out
couldn't
there.
decide which way it should go,
And
so.
that would get to Bickert's
Right,
property as
because you
well.
can't not
Yeah.
give him access.
I'll ask another stupid question. How long is that from the point you come off of Chippewa Path or Highway 12 to the end of Yellowstone Trail now?
Oh, I don't even know.
I
You mean
don't
from
either.
Highway 12?
No, well,
Yeah.
I
So,
guess, yeah, just,
is that over 1,000 feet?
Sure it is.
so then we'll get in trouble for extending it even further.
Correct, that's my question. Can we even do that? We'd have to suspend the rules on that, which we just agreed to that we were gonna keep.
Right,
It basically says that the current trail, this is your document, or it was from your colleague,
Mhm.
if I'm reading this correctly, but the Yellowstone Trail currently terminates in a cul-de-sac that is approximately 1,380 feet
yeah,
in length.
Yeah. Sounds-
And now the county zoning, which was done after that, I think also says 1,000 feet, which they just bailed out of this year in 2018. And we adopted that same language to say that it should be only 1,000 feet in length.
I have another fact question I wanted to ask Doug or you, because the county obviously has to review this.
Mhm.
I'm respectful of your comments, but then our job is to make sure they're valid.
Sure.
That your comment about the wetland the boundaries could easily be moved and pushed around, do we know that is a fact?
So some background information on that. So back when, so I got a phone call from Tammy, the zoning office, saying, hey, there's wetland delineation or wetland showing up on the DNR's website. I went back into the Yellowstone project, found the wetland delineation that was done at that time, and basically stating that it wasn't a wetland. It didn't have any vegetation and hydraulic and all that kind of stuff. So at that time, it was not a wetland. Therefore, the town's road right away is going through it, and the backyards of all those lots in Yellowstone are in it. We actually did a drainage swale in it, so we actually constructed in it. So in 2004, it was not a wetland. What they're telling me now, though, is being the DNR still has it mapped as a wetland, and a wetland delineation report is only good for 5 years.
so you can pay them more money.
Yeah. So that's the conundrum we're in right now. So I can provide old documentation that say it was looked at and was declared not a wetland. Unfortunately, the DNR still has it mapped as such. So that's the deal on the wetland.
So is there gonna, my question is, when these houses get developed, these lots get developed, if the 3 lots total, I mean, I know one's already developed. I get that.
Correct, yep, we live in the one.
So will driveways be off Chippewa, will it be off Yellowstone, is it gonna be a shared driveway?
No, there, where I put the green line, there is the existing.
one he just gave you.
Okay,
See, there's the driveway.
So here's our existing house here, so this would be, where we just built a small rambler over here, so that road would, our driveway would be off Chippewa, and then this one would come off Yellowstone. And this is really the best spot for it, and I also noted where we actually had the perk test, the soil test done for the.
do we see that?
So that one off on that Yellowstone, does that require an easement? Is that,
You can't have an easement,
okay?
we don't allow that.
So what
And
what are
our
we
new
crossing
road
that?
thing says you have to have access to a town road in order to approve a lot. But he doesn't have access to a town road. because there's no town road there. You have to have a
In
road.
our discussion here, my big question is if that other cul-de-sac is already 1,300 feet. With our new ordinance for roads, how do we approve an extension of that beyond 1,000 feet?
We're talking about this, well, this right here, the extension right here,
Yeah.
between the driveway and the cul-de-sac,
Correct.
which is how many
They're
feet?
talking about pushing.
Doesn't matter.
Well, but
The
if Bigger's
existing
extended
cul-de-sac
again.
is ours,
I just wanna know what
It's
it
probably
is.
like 150 feet.
but
The thing was, it was
our
probably.
zoning, what we agreed to on our road was 1,000
The
feet.
road would come
He
through
just-
here.
See, what you're saying is that we need
to run a road all the
Well, right, from Yellowstone back to Chippewa.
Chippewa back, and we'd be okay.
Right, that's what I think it,
Yeah, and there were two different versions that basically were generated that,
Back in the early 2000s.
correct. And one of them had a cul-de-sac and then had another cul-de-sac up in Chippewa. And then this one actually had basically a cul-de-sac that went to basically here, and then they put a cul-de-sac on our land and then ran it up on the property line between me and Craig. So there were two different versions that were done at the time that, that were documented, and of course, we pushed it back just so in the future that would make a continuous loop because the cul-de-sac is getting so long. So it would make sense to go in a path. Well, of course, the years go by and there's trees and the other things have been divided and such, so that's probably no longer feasible unless Craig did that on his property. I don't know if anybody else wants to see
see, I
these
think
or not.
that's what it is, because Pickett's had all this, he had all that, so what is it, 20 acres?
Correct.
Pickett has 20 plus acres, so that's what it was the 40 acres to,
The reason I asked my two questions to stimulate the discussion with Doug here is it seems there's two constraints that we need to address right away. One is, whether it's 100 feet or whatever it is, we're going now and tacking it onto the end of a 1,390-foot cul-de-sac, if that's even feasible. So that would have to be a public road, brought up to public standards. The other one is, we went through so much flooding last year. I mean, huge amounts of flooding, so even with engineering, with culverts and swales and everything else, I'd want to make sure that this was not a protected wetland.
Oh, sure.
Like we did with Hunter Hills, that we're,
Right
all of a
there.
sudden, now we get the roadway, whatever, cobbled together, and now you're precluded from doing it with the wetlands. I see those two major things that I wanted to make sure we talked about.
So when Yellowstone was done, I mean, all that stuff was accounted for. I mean, there were storm ponds in there, there's drainage swales and high water line elevations and all those lots. So, this watershed was studied for this drainage.
Can you show me too? Sorry, I just,
Did you
I have a
do
brain-
that, Doug?
Pardon me?
Did your firm do that?
Our firm did this, yeah.
I have
I was
a,
not involved in this project, but it was our firm that did this.
so that's the same cul-de-sac.
So this is the cul-de-sac we're talking about. And so here's, there was two alignments. One was curve this into Steve's property, and the other one was just continue straight and then could go into Victor's property.
And the wetland concern
The
is
wetland
here.
basically is kind of what's in
Right.
this woods here.
So so this lot would be basically cut in half if it was a wetland?
Well,
Or
if
the
it's,
back corner?
if it's a wetland, then they're not gonna let us put a driveway there.
Right, I'm asking though, if the wetland goes like this, correct, like
No, the wetland is like here.
up there, okay. I'm just trying to, I like
Yep.
on this area, this view, because
It's pretty big.
the wetland goes here. So the big thing, what you're saying is if the wetland's here, a driveway there is a moot point, because you can't put a
If
driveway.
it's a protected wetland, they won't let you go through the
I'm
wetland.
on your page, yeah, okay.
There's the actual map.
That is a big one. Okay. So can I ask can someone remind me again the purpose of the length
To
of
see the
the,
map,
why we're not supposed to go
Also,
beyond
what they're showing is what,
1,000 feet.
huge.
Basically, safety,
Yes, we're not-
county, county.
You're not down a blind alley.
That doesn't necessarily
What did
mean
you
that it
say?
is.
I just want a reminder why we
Unfortunately,
can't go
it's
beyond
January, you
1,000
can't.
feet.
Because it's a,
I
because
know
if
it's-
something happens, these people are trapped. I mean, this road right here blows out, these people are trapped in there, then emergency vehicles can't get to them. That's always been the big thing, is that, so they always said
And
it.
they would rather, remember when the county came and made their presentation, we got 100 cul-de-sacs.
Right, and they don't like that.
And
They
it
want the
just
roads,
makes
same thing with
tons of
fire
extra
department.
cost.
Right.
Fire departments.
Ambulance, they need to be able to get
So
through.
in technicality, it would be better if it actually went back up the Chippewa path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In reality, you know, for transportation of vehicles, you know, and maintenance of the roads and emergency vehicles and everything,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, and I answer your question, why they're no longer over 1,000 feet by saying Sam Miller.
Oh,
We have cul-de-sacs 2 miles long in some areas.
Tanny Lane has gotta be 2 miles long.
yeah.
And eventually came
And
out.
finally, but it took a long time.
So that makes sense, but in what you developed or your firm did in that back, I mean, that's really, if you're in Yellowstone, it's really a nice developed area, how they position it, the wide roads, the big cul-de-sac. And that's why, again, it goes back to something that's been there for quite a bit of time that works really well and is built. I don't understand why you would ever tear apart that structure and make it something, in my opinion, somewhat inferior to whatever.
Well, if you want to put a
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
you can put a cul-de-sac in.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to say, huh?
Well, so we were just
We-
gonna give you an option to put a hammerhead.
We
But
used
the
to
only
make you do
reason we
cul-de-sacs.
The only reason I would allow the hammerhead at all, Steve, is if it was gonna extend. Otherwise, it would have to be a cul-de-sac. For the very reason we've been talking, the school buses, the snow plowing, everything.
So you'd have to get a cul-de-sac in 150 feet or
Yeah.
another
You have to
cul-de-sac?
move it
Another
down here.
cul-de-sacs, yeah.
Well, and he could just put it on his land,
His
you know, that's the thing. And then once it gets extended, then it
It's on-
gets cut off in his property.
And then we take that part of his property because we'd be responsible for that cul-de-sac.
Well, for now, but then it's a temporary cul-de-sac.
So when they take
And then
it
when
out,
they
it
extend the
goes
road,
back
they
to
cut the
land.
cul-de-sac off and he gets his land back.
The land goes back to the land.
That's how they all work.
It's so stupid, I'm sorry.
It is. But something-
That's why we allow hammerheads.
But in this case, the cul-de-sac will be within the town roads right away, or hammerhead, whatever. So there's no land gonna go back to anybody, this would just be in the town.
Well, if it got extended.
If it gets extended, then it gets
But it
narrowed.
would have to get extended into Pickett's
Well-
property,
Correct, and if it did, then it would go back.
then he'd be extended even further.
Right.
But more likely, all you would ever do is just put a driveway out there.
Well, and then that's,
Even if he puts a driveway up, he still has to pay for the road, because he doesn't have access to a road either on that backside.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I guess,
Well,
It's for your planning, we have it all the time where the cul-de-sac stops early before, because, I mean, Crane Hill, we just did one.
No, we have one too, I'm just saying it's
Yours
like,
touches the,
Normally, and that was Steve's concern, why didn't it go to the bottom?
it's like a cul-de-sac to nowhere is my frustration.
because
It's pointless,
Bill
like,
Sherman wanted to save money and it worked at the time.
And we were all under the impression that we could put a driveway out there.
But the reason it was spread out like that was so that you could put the road 66 foot right either
well,
way.
no, the report says it wasn't a geographic.
well,
We need a
I think for tonight, I just want to, we're not here all night long. Clearly, we need to go back and look at some more planning. I know it's frustrating, but this has come up and has to be done. Sure. I'm just going to try and recap what I've heard on behalf of the town, not on behalf of me. Okay. I think to the extent that, because your lot is being proposed
You
here.
don't need a motion. 'Cause we-
No, make a motion?
Well, we need a motion on this
Oh, yeah,
tonight, so
okay,
you might
I'll
as
make a,
well.
I'm sorry, I'll make a motion to deny the request tonight, as presented.
Why though? So then give me your reasons, because I need the,
Because it does not have access to a public street, and it looks like it goes through protected way.
appears to go through a wetland.
Protected. That's my motion. Do I hear a second to that? I get to the floor for this.
I'll second. Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
If they come back, I'd like verbiage on that lot 1, lot 2 CSMs, to, if they would need to relocate the sewer system that ever failed, needs to be removed.
Septic.
The septic system on lot 2 and put on lot 1. So if it ever fails, just language that says that when we bring it back. I had one of them happen on my property. I'm looking out there going, that's really green. There should be no reason. That's really green. And when it failed, the neighbor had to move his septic system to the front yard and then do a whole lot of plumbing in the house. And that's why you don't make them do it just at any time. You wait until it fails.
As far as the easement disappearing, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a discussion we had.
You just put verbiage in there that says that if it ever fails, it has to be moved on to lot 1.
Yeah.
And most likely you'd go one step farther, and language would get put on a deed.
Yes.
Sell that house.
Yes, so that it just, we don't want to be, they don't want the landowners to get in a fight whenever that happens.
No, and Tom Schmidt brought that up, that nowadays you don't really, we do the first soil samples, and nowadays you really don't dig them in the same spot, or more likely be somewhere else.
Someplace else, any,
Correct.
So Steve, I made the motion. It's been seconded.
yes.
You're okay with his?
I just
Yes, I
want to
am.
add that on
Yeah,
there, that's
yeah.
all.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
So I'm moving to the floor.
So, I just go back here first. So we're suggesting that where the cul-de-sac ends on Chippewa, that, you know, essentially there would be a 90 going off of that. That would then form another cul-de-sac between Bickard and what is it, lot 3? Yeah.
Dan, this is the way, if you indulge me, this is, I'm just restating this is what I've heard. You know, this isn't my idea, right? But in the essence of time tonight, I think, and Steve, listening to these conversations, the concern that I hear on behalf of the town is that we have a cul-de-sac that's over 1,390 feet long. We have to get over that hurdle, whether it's 5 feet or 150 feet, to get it extended to your property. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is you have well, I'm going to call it a massive, you have a very large delineated protected wetland. That we need to make sure that they're going to let you get through that, even if we say you can extend the road. With Doug's help, with your engineering help, you do have ways to come in off from here and put a road in to get down here. And on behalf of the town that I would have concerns on is, if this was ever approved, you know, that's the whole issue. This lot could be subdivided again that you have here. So that's why we're taking the time to say, no, we have to do it by the book, so to speak. Because this is the size of this lot. If you're ever not here, then someone else could come in and say, well, Steve told me I could subdivide my lot, now I want to do this, and we're going to go, well, no, it was a wetland, it was a road, it was all this. Sure. So I think for tonight, I know it's frustrating, but I think you guys need to go back and say, well, maybe we do bring a road up from here, or maybe, you know, how far you want to pursue that with the county.
So as far as the existing cul-de-sac, the diameter, edge of the diameter between, this is from there to our back corner stake, who owns that property?
Town of Hudson.
So does the town of Hudson want to sell an eighth of an acre of that?
No, because
We've talked, people have come in and want us to abandon future town roads, and we've said no on all of those at this point. And the reason for it is you never know when somebody might want to do what you want to do right now. That's why you don't abandon them in the future. We're in a lawsuit over one over in Edgewood, because the guy's trying to get that land, that future town road land that sits on his property. Claiming it hasn't ever gone through, and it goes back, just to show you where it is, it's off the Edgewood Drive going, that would head back to Golden Oaks Drive to get you to Trump Brook Road. That should have been done when that was developed in the early 1980s, and the people that lived in Trump Brook on Golden Oaks Road didn't want it. They didn't want all those people from that development driving there. They aren't gonna be the ones driving. You're gonna be going through all those homes in Edgewood at that point in time. You know,
And all the lots are big enough to split, that's the problem. So if you don't,
So we do have a relief valve for you, just, you don't have to go back and, you know, do it to the last detail. Sure. If you have a concept, come back in and talk to us.
right.
And so we can talk through this, because we're all trying to find the best plan.
Because I don't know what we're gonna do if you wanna extend it over 1,000 feet.
No, I don't
We
either.
just approved it.
we just approved it.
We just approved it. You'd be the first one, and now we're gonna say, oh, we're gonna violate our own rule, we just.
That we worked a year on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, if you actually put a cul-de-sac off that cul-de-sac to create a 3-4 lots back there, that would probably be 300-400 feet into
Right,
the center.
you're right.
All right.
To make it nice pie-shaped pieces, which of course would be 1,600-1,700 square feet.
Right. So those are my comments. I'm sorry you're in the position you are, but with some additional planning, come back in and talk to us on concept.
I agree with Don, come back as a concept.
Yeah.
Don't- You and Don, you and Doug sit down and talk about some ideas and then come back to the concept.
No, I appreciate the conversation and the ideas. I guess looking forward, if it doesn't work out, we find out that we have 3-4 acres in protected wetland, and how do I reclaim those years of taxes that I paid on the property for 21 years?
Oh.
If you can find that out,
If you can
let us
find that out,
know.
Well, I can tell you, if you
We'd like
find it out, you'll find out the assessor.
I'm sure you already-
2 years is all they go
You're-
back.
Well, they don't even have to go back that far. They don't, I mean, you're not paying market price on that land anyway. You only pay it on the house part, and the additional stuff isn't taxed at,
Quite a bit different.
so they're,
I do agree with you, you got a great spot.
Yeah.
You'll have a great plan. Just for tonight, I think that's where we need to move on. So-
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thanks so much for coming in. All right, I'm going to move ahead then on the next agenda item. Discussion and action on our garbage contract. That's always a nice one to talk about. Someone here from Waste Management?
Yes.
Do you want to come up, grab a chair or a bench? And who are you?
My name's Jason Hartnett. I'm the
Jason.
public sector sales rep.
Okay. Where are you out of?
I'm out of the Blaine office.
Blaine? Okay.
The hauling comes from Somerset for Hudson, but yeah, I station out of the Blaine office.
I think that something might be helpful for us tonight, and me personally. We have at least 4 people here that were part of this original contract
Okay.
that you're proposing to renew. I'll just set the tone. We've had you guys for years. We need to have someone like you to do it. I have a couple of things I want to raise on behalf of citizens with respect to your timing, where you tell people to come on a certain day or another one. But I'm going to hold that in abeyance. So you want to just tell us briefly what you're proposing tonight?
Well, what we're proposing is a 5-year extension. Really with the trash prices, we didn't move them. We kind of kept them stagnant. It's the recycling prices that have shot up. And over the last couple of years with the recycling market, that's kind of the reason behind it. 5 years ago when we originally signed the contract, the mixed commodity value was probably sitting around $130 a ton. Currently today, it sits around $25 a ton. To compound that, now with kind of the tougher regulations and the lower amount of contamination allowed, processing costs back when we started the contract were probably around $55 a ton. They've now risen to about $85 a ton. So it's kind of a double whammy on recycling, and that's why I think right now you guys are paying around $230.
I'm laughing because I predicted this like 6 years ago with recycling, so.
Yeah. China cut us off in, I think it was April of 2018. That's when this kind of bottomed out. Locally here, about 80% of our recycled material goes, I would say, regionally, between local markets and domestic markets. We still probably export about 20%, but all the coastal cities have now kind of pushed all their product up here, kind of flooding the market. So that's what's kind of driven the prices down, while also recyclers now are looking for.
Or the cleanliness of the single stream too.
Yep, and that's why the processing costs have gone up. So. But that in a nutshell is kind of why that price has risen so much. We also had to raise the price of the drive-ups. That doesn't affect everybody, but the last few winters we've had a lot of issues where we've had to call tow trucks out, to pull our trucks out. They're trying to drive up driveways to pick up, pick up the trash and recycling. With that, we do use a split body truck. We can pick up both streams at once, so we kind of get, it's just one truck going up these driveways versus, running a large trash and recycle truck up. But,
And just for enlightenment for everybody, because I was here part of the original contract, Advance was actually cheaper than Waste Management at that time. They did not have one of those trucks. So they were gonna try to haul big trucks up everybody's driveway. And that's when we said, no, we need the smaller trucks, and they're still having trouble with the smaller trucks. They haven't sent tow trucks to pull them out. And that's just a brief knowledge on how important that is, that they're smaller trucks.
Jason, do you have a sense of how many people take their trash out to the road as opposed to having a?
I believe there's about 130 that have the drive-up service.
You can have a drive-up service?
Yeah, it comes right to your garage.
Marriott's awesome.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So Tony has it.
I thought that was maybe,
So Tony has it.
I honestly thought that was for like maybe people with disabilities or something.
The
You
whole-
can just I would just
Doesn't matter.
call drive-up
Yeah, you
service.
pay, well, you
You
pay
pay
for
for
it.
Well, obviously, but
That was the reason, because Dave Osby had the backup service,
Dave
and he
Osby had it.
was
Yeah, for
adamant
years.
about being able to have it.
so that's $11.75 every quarter,
Every month.
every month,
Yeah. It typically is for people with, like you said, the long driveways,
or
more in the rural
disabilities.
area. Yeah. Disabilities were a little bit more lenient. I've never heard of us charging somebody that was disabled to do a walk-up service. That's typically always a free service.
What do you do for your disabled? I got a handicap, stick it right in my.
Okay, so going back to like 2019, what are our rates for, these things?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring the previous rates.
Do we know what they are?
I don't know, you get a bill every quarter, 10, the garbage is the same, and as you said, recycling was like $2.30 a month.
Yeah,
Something
recycling
like
is
that.
about $230, $240 a month. It's,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hide that it's
Say it's
substantial.
Yeah, but if we were doing like
Yeah, it's- I don't know.
64 gallon, was it the 1068 or was it?
No, that's what that is. My bill is like, I have the largest container and recycling, and it's $38 a quarter.
I got two of the largest containers
And,
the used recycling, and it's like $44
Right.
standard. We have two, we got 8 kids, so like two,
So the trash really isn't moving too much, but it's the recycling that we're looking for the increase on, along with the drive-up service.
The last time we did this, was there an escalation clause then too, this is going up?
Yeah,
4%?
yeah, I think recycling started at $190 a month or something like that.
Yeah, and so it's always gradually gone up in the gas price, because at one point we were like $5.50 a gallon for gas, so that's been there probably the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it hasn't been an issue with the fuel, and
No.
I mean, hopefully Somerset's kind of, they lag a little bit behind the Twin Cities markets, just because they're not as large. But the CNG trucks will be coming. So within, my hope, is by the end of this contract, they'll have CNG trucks out here as well. I know both in the Blaine, Burnsville sites in Minnesota have them, and it's just a matter of time before they gravitate out to the more rural markets.
Well,
I'm just thinking.
when we agreed to this township as a whole market,
Yeah.
that's when we got the self-dumping vehicles. Before that, we had to carry all our garbage cans out to the road. So that was a big push for the change.
Okay,
Recycling and everything went to that with our first 5-year contract.
okay.
It was huge.
Plus, yeah.
It was a big plus.
yeah, and then we got recycling on carts too. We
Yes,
used to have to
yes.
carry our
that
little
little
buckets.
plastic bucket thing.
Bucket out to the end of the road.
Yeah, my background is I owned a trash company before I came on. Waste Management purchased our company, and then I came over and we started hauling recycling and trash in Aurora, Colorado. Just outside of Denver, which you would think is more of a greener area. And nothing was further from the truth. None of them had, the wheeled carts. they didn't recycle. I mean, out there, you dig a big hole in the ground, and that's where the trash goes.
Yeah. Mhm.
I know out there we're experimenting with the driverless trucks at the landfill.
Oh,
That's still a ways off here, so
That's
not to worry
doable.
about that.
I'm okay with all of this, the only question I have.
I just have an operational question that has showed up on next door, and I've had a couple of people call me as the chair, so I'll just kind of summarize it.
Okay.
And it goes sort of like this from being a user. Like I used to get a robocall, my wife and I did.
Yeah.
It would say, you know, Tuesdays, New Year's, don't
Yeah.
put out your
You
trash.
still get it.
Yeah, put it out, whatever. Apparently, there's some people that they do that, and then their trash isn't getting picked up.
I think the unfortunate part is, and I know the last time it happened was Christmas, the way of Christmas, and our issue is we had the service delay because of Christmas, so everyone got bumped, and then Friday customers got bumped to Saturday, and then we had the ice storm.
Ice storm.
And essentially, I know at Waste Management, we pulled our trucks out throughout the entire metro, and we just don't, no one has the wherewithal to compensate for that. Because the following week, we
It's a
lose
holiday,
we lose a
yeah.
day for New Year's.
Right.
So the unfortunate part is everyone got pushed a week worth of recycling in case some got pushed 2 weeks.
Well, they say there's no such thing as a dumb question, but I guess I'll ask it on behalf of the people who called me.
Absolutely.
You're not differentiating, like, well, if you live south of the interstate,
No,
you're.
it's the day that you get your garbage
I'm
service.
saying the people that have called me have said, hey, are they doing something different
Oh, no, I
in
mean,
different parts of the town? I said, no,
Well,
I knew this
yes.
meeting was.
Yes, they are,
They do.
because it's the day they picked up. So like mine was Friday, so mine got moved to Saturday.
Right.
So guess what? I didn't get garbage or recycling.
Really quick, is there any other kind of notification besides a robocall? Can you get like,
But,
sign up?
Yeah, but I just want to come back, I asked a question, I want you to parse my question, let me restate it then.
okay,
Whatever zone you're in, whatever day you're picked up, if it's on Tuesday,
yep,
right? Whatever got goofed up, you got goofed up for everybody in that zone.
everyone got.
That's the way it
Yes.
is.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm smart enough to know that we pick up at different days in
Yeah.
town.
I can attest that Stillwater, St. Paul, all of them,
Right.
same scenario. We had to push everyone out a week. We just don't have the capacity. We didn't have the capacity to pick them up, so.
You know, some of the people might have gotten confused on, it. The robocall for Christmas came the week before, which meant if they put it out on Saturday of the week they got the phone call, their garbage didn't get picked up because it was still on Friday that week. And then the phone call
Correct.
for
Yep.
New Year's came out before that weekend for the next week away.
Well, then they need to listen to the phone call.
Well,
They gotta listen.
Well,
It's
that's
a listening problem, not
There you
a
go.
service
Yes.
problem.
Well, if all your neighbor's trash is out in the morning, but yours isn't, I'd go back and put my trash
And
in.
the other thing is I had to chase the truck down on Saturday. And I knew he came early. I'm down at the pole barn, gathering up the garbage in the pole barn. I hear the truck coming up the road at 7:30. Shit.
7:30. Ours comes at 6:30. If we don't put it on like 4.
But
yeah, but they were
he's
behind.
over in Tanny Ridge, and when they do that late pickup, they always start early.
I don't even get the notification, I don't think.
Do you have a
I
home-
think-
do you have
I think it was based on my landline.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't have.
There you
it.
go.
Yeah, they don't call us.
But with that said, I just have a general knowledge of what's gonna happen, you know, and this is obvious.
So how do they get back
So-
on the robocall to the cell phone?
You don't.
You
You
don't.
also
I mean,
get a
yeah.
calendar at the beginning of each year.
Right.
like your pickup
Yeah,
days
I
are.
think a lot of times it's
Everything.
whatever phone number's attached to your account. If everyone has an account.
And you
they-
didn't update your phone number with your
Right,
account.
but is there another notification?
Yeah,
Or
the
is it
calendar
just-
that you get every year.
Okay, I just keep some
Asking
word
what's
here.
here.
This is very helpful,
No.
because we should know this as a town board, so if you've dropped your landline, and if you haven't updated your account, there'd be no way for you to give them a
I'd like to make a
robocall.
motion.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
okay, so that's point number one. Question number two then, I've heard from you, if there is an ice storm, you didn't pick it up, then you are giving them credits back on their bill, correct?
Well, we haven't talked about that, but my guess is if people call in, you know, they're not gonna dispute it.
Yeah.
If that missed service, you know, if you call them directly.
Oh, yeah,
they
people
credit
complain
the
about
bill,
everything.
$4.
So you,
Seriously,
what'd
you
you
get
get?
a credit because your garbage is picked up a week late.
Well,
You
if
know,
Should've called.
it's,
No, because
It's a missed service for weather or anything.
yeah, It's typically.
That's an act of God.
Yeah.
You shouldn't get a refund, it's an act of God.
Typically, you don't give it right away, they won't give a call, the call center won't give it right away, but if they pursue, it's quicker to give them a week credit than to argue that point for, 20 minutes. Because typically, that's not their only phone call coming in that day. If there's a weather issue, it's a bigger deal. But I know in like a lot of the other contract cities, we did call this an act of God, that we couldn't run it, and then with the service delay, and then the one nice thing about Waste Management, we don't force guys to come in on the holiday, because I know a few of our competitors force people to come in on New Year's Day, and where guys have lives, our employees also have lives, and
Yeah.
it was just
Holidays
tough
for
at
families.
times,
Garbage can wait a day.
I would like the postal service to reimburse me stamps.
Exactly.
So,
Bring it to the front board.
Can I move it a little bit to something else here?
Yes,
So,
please.
there's reference in here to, we being responsible if the recycling doesn't meet specifications. In other words, there could be a chargeback. And I understand that that's never happened in the past, right?
It has not happened in the past. It's very tough to charge. I mean, I think a lot of that contract is in for drop sites, because where the city can run a drop site, and that's where we experience a lot of this. We experience a lot of it commercially too. If our drivers are not lifting lids or not tagging for contamination, it's very hard to sit and say, well, it's the city's fault.
But our list of qualifying recyclables is smaller now, right?
Correct. We
So-
kind of did away with the 6s and 7s.
Yeah.
The plastics, number 6 and 7,
Which
they're
we
harder to
really
find.
communicate to people.
And the 3s and 4s too.
Yeah, it's
Well,
down to
it's-
1s, 2s, and 5s
Right.
essentially.
That's what we talked about, it's the whole recycling rules have changed. I
And
mean, it used to be everything, and then they
So
moved
my
it back.
question was, how do we get that out to all of the residents?
I can see if we can get a postcard. When we send up the postcards, we can put down on there kind of the new rules. And it's still covering all the basic plastics you're gonna see. I mean,
I love this, what you just typed up in your contract is wonderful.
okay,
I
thank
haven't
you.
seen that in 15 years.
Oh, the acceptable materials?
Yeah.
Well, I can copy that and put it on the website too, no one will read it, but I can put it there.
Let's put it on there.
Okay.
Good.
It gives us a chance to say, go look on the website.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no reason for us to
I'll
throw
just put
that
it
stuff
in-
in the recycle.
I'll just put it in the spotlight, so it's right on the front
Good.
page. No one will still see it, but it could be there.
Yeah, because those are the piece of paper you put in the garbage anyway, so. that's-
Exactly.
Can you show me?
Steve, you have a question?
Question for the gentleman, can you take a notice back to your management and maybe, I noticed when trying to go onto your website to try to find out if garbage was delayed or not, and it was really difficult to try and find, for instance, for Hudson Township, if it's delayed a day. And, you'll get the phone call and then you're trying to think, was that for here or was that for next week or whatever? But if there was some way a guy could go to a website and look at it, then you can confirm it.
I'm wondering if I couldn't get something set up through your town where you
Well,
can put a portal in town.
John called me a couple times, and I tried to put it on the website, and, but like I said, no one goes to the website anyway, and it's like, well, it was
Yeah.
there, and, I mean, we don't know that it's gonna snow or that we're gonna have freezing rain until, so,
It happens.
right, so I wasn't gonna be here on Saturday to put it on or whatever that, well, guess what? I mean, if you looked out your window, you kind of figured that.
You could.
When you're skating down your driveway, taking your garbage cans. to the curb,
Right, you weren't leaving to go anywhere, so I'm pretty sure no one was coming to you.
Well, hopefully through the winter, we're done. We've got the 3 winter holidays that there's issues, there are potential weather issues, and Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We don't have another scheduled service delay now till Memorial
Memorial
Day.
Day.
So, and if it's snowing then, we're in big trouble.
Well, and it wouldn't have been a big deal if our pickup days were, when Christmas falls at the beginning of the week, it doesn't.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the extended contract with Multi Waste Management for
Second.
another 5 years.
Okay, I want to bring that to the floor. I have 2 questions after that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion's carried. I have 2 questions. I just want to expand it for our board real quickly. When we did our budgets, I'm throwing these numbers out so don't clam on me. Somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 of unpaid bills show up each year.
Okay.
that we don't, you know, our people don't pay their bills. And then we put it on their tax rolls because we have to collect it. So it comes from you to Vicky and Chris, and your magic is there and it goes on their bill. And rightfully so, I pulled my phone up like this on several calls in December as to why is this on their bill. And most of their angst was with you guys, that for some reason they called you guys, thinking that you had somehow put it on their bill.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing, this is my chance after 5 years, just we talk about this. So I defended you saying, no, you guys don't have that authority to do that. We did that.
Okay.
And I have to put a little humor in it because I asked everybody what their name, number is, where they live, and then I said, you live in St. Joe. So you need to call somebody else. But just for the board, I mean, Vicki, you filled me in. You have like a rolling list that comes in.
Oh, I do.
We get it every month.
Every
We
month
have
I
to
get
have it
all the
because it's
delinquencies.
special.
And when you hit the end of the year,
Yeah, we're about 30, it was 30,000 some odd dollars you guys signed off on it
They
for
should really
tax
put it
bills.
on their tax return, because it's not.
Yeah, these people, that's exactly, it's the same people that are on there.
Yeah, every year it's the same
$30,000
people.
to $40,000 is a lot of delinquent bills.
But they're not even giving us all the delinquent garbage.
They're
What
going
do you
after
mean,
something.
what do you mean the delinquent garbage?
Well, I'll guarantee you the people that are on there are delinquent more than the amount they gave us, because
Yep.
they're not really delinquent on their current bill yet. It's like,
Oh,
well,
it's in delay.
if you're a
Yeah.
year delinquent, you are delinquent, but no, Waste Management wants to hold that bill for another year, so. But
Just to make sure that
it was the
you-
town's decision so that the garbage continues to get picked up,
Yeah,
otherwise you
otherwise,
can
yeah.
imagine the
City
garbage.
does the
we
same
would-
thing. City puts it on their tax roll.
Yeah,
I just
Well,
don't-
we have
You don't
garbage
pay your
everywhere.
bill.
Yeah.
You
I've
gotta
seen
pay
every
that.
All the persons
city
put them on their
that's
tax rolls.
organized collection, you're not allowed to shut up
Right.
customers.
exactly, that's
It's
what
in
we do.
subscription markets where you get your 60 days and then you stop taking off.
Yeah, exactly, girls.
So I have a question, is there any other discussion? I mean, a motion has been made and seconded.
It's already been voted on too.
Well, again, here's my question, is there something I need to sign?
Yeah,
I don't have a contract ready
Oh,
yet.
you
I was
do?
gonna wait until
okay.
it gets approval before our attorneys are busy enough, so I like to wait until everything gets approved before I run.
All right.
Run them
This is
through that.
our chance to visit with you, and I'm just sure, somebody must have really burned somebody's ears at your corporate office on the table. So you can pass it on and go, hey, whatever, we put that on their tax rolls, not you guys.
Oh, it's kind of just the way it is, otherwise there's language that we can shut people off. So typically in the city contracts, the cities want everyone hooked up on a weekly basis, and it's just kind of the trade-off for it.
When you do the contract, we're not the city of Hudson, we're the
Town of Hudson.
There are some places in here you talk about it as the town, and some
Oh.
places your verbiage calls it city. We're not the city.
Oh,
yeah. So when you do the contract, make sure it always just says town of Hudson.
The one easy thing is I'll send the old contract with the new language, and then I'll let them do it. I'll have that out. It usually takes a couple weeks. Once we get that done, then we can alter the pricing.
Just for everybody here, there's an old Benedict lived on the corner down there. Township is land.
Yeah, you guys
Town
call it
is
township all the time. It
municipality.
drives me
I don't call
nuts.
it township.
Some
It's a
people
town.
do, there's a lot of people that call it township. Township is only land,
Yep.
not,
It's a town.
it's a town.
Don't call it township. You need to sound like you know what you're talking about.
So I just, everybody's here,
No, thanks for having me
Thanks
out
for
though.
coming all the way from Blaine tonight.
Oh, no
I
problem.
wanna
I'm
get
sorry.
done by 8 o'clock.
He
so
wasn't
we're gonna
supposed, he
move
was
Oh,
off the
it's-
agenda, and then,
It's fine. I would be sitting in a hockey arena if I wasn't here tonight,
Okay.
so.
I wish you were at hockey, sorry.
Thank you for coming all the way.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Safe travels.
Any other communications or items for future agendas? All right, our standard town boards, town attorney. All right, any other business? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Done?